Hey weirdos, welcome back. Happy June. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you guys doing today? This was my Memorial Day mani. I'll leave it up in the cards or down in the box, probably down in the box, but we're gonna do my left hand today. And I have something so special to share with you guys. I have teamed up with Shameless Nails, and together we created this color called Thrive in honor of PTSD awareness. And proceeds from this dip powder will be going to PTSD awareness organizations. So it is launching right now. I'm going to leave all the details down in the box for you guys. But we created this color with a very specific thought in mind, and I'm going to explain that to you. Follow along. This may get complicated. Here's what I wanted to do. And Shameless took my vision, and I can't believe what they did with it. This is the cold swatch. These are the nails when they're cold, or the swatch when it's cold. Wait till you see it warm. Here is it warm. This is what we wanted to do. So teal is the color for PTSD awareness. So I wanted to have something teal. Also, I wanted to add a glimmer of hope, as evident by the foil flakies that are in here, and a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's why this dip transforms from cold to warm, from teal to like a very, very soft, almost a white. It's like a Cinderella blue, if you will. I love this color so much, my whole entire heart. Wait till you see the photos at the end of the video of it transitioning. Y'all, it's so good. We're gonna get this on the nail. I am going to keep an accent nail white, and the reason I wanted to do this was so you have something to, like a baseline, you know, so you can see it transform next to the white dip powder. This is going to be a very, very basic application using my Sparkle & Co liquids, eye gel, baby powder, and Shameless Thrive. I'm going to go ahead and get started on this mani, and while we're getting into the mani, I really wanted to spend a little time talking about PTSD awareness, starting with some facts. 10% of women, 4% of men are directly affected by PTSD. Now, we have just shy of 25,000 weirdos subscribed to this channel, so that would be 2,500 of us affected by PTSD, and I am one of them. We kind of created a hashtag, if you will, to normalize and really open up a discussion about PTSD. The hashtag we created is Face of Trauma, and I am hashtag Face of Trauma. If you are hashtag Face of Trauma, comment down below if you feel comfortable and let us know that we're not alone, as we are letting you know that you are not alone. Something else that some people don't realize about PTSD is that the symptoms of PTSD are super personal and individual. An example of this would be recovering from surgery. If you and I had the same surgery, are we going to have the same recovery? Likely not. And that's the way PTSD works as well. Another interesting fact about PTSD that I don't think a lot of people know. Now, mind you, I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. I'm nobody. But I do have my bachelor's degree in behavioral science, and I did study PTSD quite a bit for the last few years. So, that being said, I'm going to carry on. Feel free to click off this video if this is not for you. I don't mean to hold you hostage. I'm sorry if I am, or if you feel like I am. Just trying to increase awareness and maybe educate a little bit from what I've learned during my degree program. Now, I just mentioned that we would likely not heal from the same surgery the same way. And PTSD, when it comes to trauma, is a lot like that. I describe it as pain tolerance. You know, if you and I both had the same injury, if we had a paper cut, let's just say, are we going to feel the same level of pain? Probably not, because we're individuals. We have individual pain tolerance. And trauma works the same way. What I perceive as trauma, you may not, and vice versa. And I think the big thing to take away is that is okay, and that is individual. And what I don't like to see, and unfortunately I see it often, is people minimizing trauma just because they don't perceive it to be traumatic. But what's traumatic for me may not be traumatic for you. And that's okay. I think sometimes it slips our minds that our individuality is what make us who we are, what makes us beautiful. And I wish I saw more people embracing those individual characteristics and accepting people for it instead of putting people down or making people feel like they're less than for feeling a different way. Something else that I don't think is talked about or understood is the fact that PTSD doesn't necessarily happen right after the trauma happens. Sometimes it can take years to develop, and I think that's mostly because sometimes we don't have a chance to really absorb or process the trauma that happened. And then years later, it kind of just smacks you in the face. And it can happen usually with a trigger. Should I give us a trigger warning in the beginning? Maybe I will. I might have put it in already. But that's oftentimes what happens. We kind of forget about it, move on with our lives. And this isn't always the case, but it can be the case where something happens years after your trauma, and it's like you're right back to the day the trauma happened. And that can happen too. And again, it's very, very individual. And we can all have very different experiences when dealing with trauma and PTSD. The last little factoid I want to share with you guys, which I think is the most important and perhaps the most controversial, and that is the fact that you do not have to be directly traumatized in order to suffer from PTSD. I think the best example that I have that I can personally share with you about this is 9/11. I was living in New York during 9/11. I was not in New York City. I was living on Long Island. I was 19 years old, I think, 19 or 20. And I was supposed to get up and go to work in the morning. I was working for Geico. Yes, I sold insurance. That's how boring my life was before YouTube. Anyway, I was supposed to go to work. My office was not in the city, but it was about 20 miles away, I suppose, in Nassau County, if you're familiar with Long Island. Yes, I worked at the Geico in Woodbury. Got a phone call from my boss, and she's like, yeah, don't come in. I'm like, what do you mean, don't come in? What happened? She's like, turn on the news. So I turned on the news, and it was in between plane 1 and plane 2. So the first plane had hit the tower, but not the second one yet. And I was watching the news, and as I'm watching the news, in shock, the second plane hit. And I don't even know if I knew what I was thinking. I don't know that I was thinking anything. I couldn't stop staring at the TV. And I immediately left. I was at my boyfriend's house. Immediately left and went to my house, my parents' house. And I was like, I don't even know how I got there, if I'm being honest. You never drive somewhere and you find yourself with that like driving hypnosis where you just don't know how you got from point A to point B. Pretty much how I felt. Didn't know how I got there. I just knew I was there. And I didn't really process what had happened. I think my initial reaction was anger, which is typical of me. As an Aries, I am told I have 2 emotions. I have happy and super pissed off. Not much in between. But I was just super angry. And it wasn't until years later when someone had brought up like the Twin Towers, or maybe you know what it was? I was watching Friends. And it was an older episode where you saw the Twin Towers, and I immediately started sobbing. And I don't know that I would say that I had PTSD. I didn't. Not from that, at least, because it doesn't affect my everyday life. But that was a trauma reminder. I was reminded. And I wasn't directly impacted, thankfully. I didn't know anyone who was, directly affected by it. I didn't have any friends that were there at the time. I didn't have any family that was there at the time. I got very, very lucky, thankfully. But that's an example of how you don't have to directly experience a trauma to be traumatized. And there are so many other examples. Another one that I like to talk about, which is not something personal. I wanted to share a little personal story about me, I guess. But this one is not I know factually that a lot of first responders suffer from PTSD, not because they're directly involved in whatever trauma occurred, but hearing about the trauma and seeing the aftermath of a trauma can also cause PTSD. So, that being said, you do not have to be directly affected by trauma to be afflicted with PTSD. And again, I wish this could be something that was normalized and not talked down about, because I often hear people, oh, well, you weren't there. How come you're traumatized? It doesn't matter. It goes back to that whole example I gave earlier about processing trauma differently. You know, person A can hear about a story that happened to somebody else and be completely fine, and person B can hear a story that happened to somebody else and immediately start showing symptoms of PTSD. Can cause fear, anxiety, and it could really interrupt everyday life, which is why treatment for PTSD can be so important and so beneficial. If you are suffering with PTSD, whether you think it's something that you need help with or not, I would encourage you to check into some of the resources that I'm going to leave in the box for you guys. If for nothing else, for a little peace of mind, so that you know if you have any of these feelings, that your feelings are valid and your feelings are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with how you feel. You're entitled to feel however it is that you feel, and that is 100% okay. Now that I've been on a very long rant about PTSD, thank you so much if you're still here. If you can't tell, it's something I'm super passionate about. Mental health in general is something that I am really working to reduce stigma on, specifically PTSD. I think that it's come so far since it was really first a thing back in like the 50s, I guess it was. It was like a soldier illness. You know, you came back from war with what they called like war neuroses or something like that, shell shock. And that's what it was. It was PTSD, but it's been expanded now to encompass so many more people and so many more things. And it really comes down to, is it affecting your everyday life? And if it is, there are resources that can help you through that. And I went back on my tangent about PTSD. Okay, I'm over it. I'm what? I'm moving on. I'm over it. Back to nails. Now that I've done my whole entire mani. Again, this color, just to speak about the dip powder real quick, Shameless did such an incredible job. If you have been with me for a while, oh, by the way, scrub clear on the left, non-scrub clear on the right. Scrub your clear. If you want to avoid cloudiness or bubbles. Shameless, if you guys have been around for a minute, you know that I love Shameless Nails. I absolutely adore the ladies themselves. I love their products. I have had nothing but good things to say about their stuff, which is why when they mentioned to me about doing a collab color for PTSD awareness, heck yes, are you kidding me? I would love to. And they really did such an incredible job, not only in making this color, but seeing the vision and what I really wanted to do with this and making it all happen. I wish they lived close to me so I could hug them, even though I know it's COVID time. You shouldn't be hugging anybody right now. But Emily and Maria, thank you so much. Sending virtual hugs from my heart to yours. Thank you so much for collabing with me on this color. It seriously means the world to me. Now you can see the little bit of that transition, right? It transitions so beautifully. And I'm going to show you pictures at the end. It was tough to get on camera because lights and stuff and things, but I did take some super cool pics for you. I'm going to show you at the end. Don't go anywhere. I filed and buffed off camera per usual. I will leave a video of my filing routine down in the description box like I usually do in case you need help with that. I'm going to go ahead and get my top coat on, but I'm going to let you guys watch in silence and have a little zen glossy top coat moment, and I'll be back with some photos. So here's the final look, and this is warm. Now granted, I live in Florida. I'm always warm. My hands are warm, the outside is warm, but here is what it looks like cold. Here is the color transitioning. And again, here is the color warm. Everything will be in the box for you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Have an outstanding rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one. Love you, bye.